Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, He says, on all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn His reward. Don't forget the oppressed. And when you go to sleep at night,
It's just blue screen.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of A Time to Please Allah. And we are joined today, alhamdulillah, by none other than Brother Al-Amir Ismailovich. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
He's got a different look today with the glasses
Well,
on.
brother, what can I say? I'm getting older.
SubhanAllah.
But trying to stay young, yani.
MashaAllah. Okay.
Wearing like kind of, you could say, sporty glasses. But
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. Sitting in for Ismail today, who's got some exams. MashaAllah, may Allah help him. And if you are just joining us, alhamdulillah, Time to Please Allah is a show about, the daily things that Muslims go through, a lot of important issues that Muslims, deal with every day. So make sure you follow us every Thursday from 7 p.m. Mecca time, KSA, and 8 p.m. UAE time. And I believe now, slowly, it's going to be air broadcasted in the US and Canada and most likely England. So you can check the times. You can go to huda.tv and you can see all the shows, the timings, and you can convert the time and see what time does Huda air, wherever you are. And this show does rerun, I believe, on Friday and I believe Saturday as well, or so on. So you can check the live schedules. And you can also see our number on the screen. You can give us a call live if you have your questions or inquiries or suggestions. Inshallah, we would like to hear from you because this show is about you, is for you, is from you. So we want to hear from you. A lot of the shows that we are making up, that we are putting together, it's because of people saying we'd like to hear about this, we'd like to hear about that, and so on. So today again, by popular request, and alhamdulillah, we have an amazing guest, Brother Muhammad Tim Humble.
humble guest.
A very humble guest, mashallah. Yes. And he is a graduate from Medina University. And mashallah, he has a lot of experience when it comes to jinn and magic and doing exorcisms.
Oh boy. I mean, these are the favorite topics.
The favorite topics.
Everyone loves that.
But the thing is, subhanAllah, that these are things that are, they're very severe and very, people sometimes take them as jokes and start, it's like the story time, around the fire. If you go camping, that's like one of the things, right? It's like you got to talk about
It did happen so many times.
And it did happen so many times, right? Even when we go camping.
Yeah.
But, people basically have issues with this, right? And we got some interesting questions that I'm going to read out when Brother Tim comes on. But it's affecting the ummah. And one of the things that it's affecting the ummah with, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, that these angels, Harut and Marut, who were basically
sent by
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they were sent, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةٌ فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. We are fitna, don't disbelieve. Subhanallah. I mean, this is, because people, sometimes, when you look at theology in general, when people look at the issue of good and evil, right? People make a dichotomy. It's like good was created from Allah,
yes,
and the evil was created from who? Like there's a second creator. It's not that Allah is a'udhu billahi. People should not misunderstand. But Allah, by His Mashiach, His allowance, His will, He allowed these things to happen. He allowed shaitan to go astray because he will have a purpose. He knew, because He created, He knew His haughtiness and His kibr, that He will not prostrate. And He knew that He will have a purpose. So people need to understand that subhanAllah, everything is by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why a Muslim, when he is touched by evil or by good, a mu'min says, alhamdulillah. He takes his precautions, no doubt, as the Prophet ﷺ taught us to tie our camel and then put tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that subhanAllah, even Muhammad ﷺ himself was afflicted with magic by that Yahudi who put that spell on him. And subhanAllah, this was the asbab nuzul, or the reasons for revelation for Surah Al-Falaq, Surah Nas, okay, and the quls that we recite as protection. And subhanAllah,
No,
so
the thing.
it's amazing because there's a reason. And even more, it contextualizes the fact that, he is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he's still a human being. And we can connect and identify.
I think it's quite clear what we're trying to say is, for those who do not know much, that there's two worlds. There's a world of men, or a world of insan, or human beings, and there's the world of jinn.
Of jinn, yes.
And interaction between the two is not allowed.
Yes.
And this is quite clear. It exists, it's not allowed. They're Muslim jinn, they're not Muslim jinn. That being said, just to deal with those jinn, and some people do actually, the witchcraft, the magicians. As a matter of fact, in Dubai, there was just a show on National Geographic, and they were showing how these guys from some weird places in Africa and Tanzania and different countries, they come and they bring these weird voodoo type notebooks written with a bunch of stuff and some weird things. And you know what, subhanAllah, mashallah, may Allah reward them, the guards, the security, the custom guys, they watch out for this.
Right.
And they caught a couple of guys and they deported them. So what I'm trying to say is this is a severe thing.
It's amazing that you say that about Tanzania, because when I was in Tanzania and I went to an orphanage there, the first day I arrived there, the guys were showing me the room. And, putting all the things aside that I've seen and I knew about that place, but a lot of them were Christians who have converted from Islam into Christianity, a'udhu billahi, to be in the orphanage, right? Like they give you
Yes.
Jesus and the bread, or like the Bible and the bread, right? Here, you want the bread, take the Bible, So these kids were, names like Muhammad, Ahmed, they're wearing crosses, right? They're converted to Christianity by force, so they can go to school, so they can be in this orphanage, so they can be taken care of. So when they showed me their room, I'm not kidding you, under their mattress there was like papers stuck in there, and in the there were some holes in the wall, and there was papers that were stuck in there. And when I was flying in the airplane, I could see public campaigns, like going into Tanzania, you have the TV, like the local things playing, whatever, there's some public campaigns, public ads against magic, that people are like sacrificing albino, Tanzanians and making
albinos, yes.
Yeah, albinos, and they're making all kind of potions and, for magic and stuff. So there's some public campaigns by the government. But when I was in their room, they had in their walls and under their mattresses, what did they have? Quranic ayats from the Quran, pieces of pages from the Quran. So I took it out and I was like,
it's weird.
And these guys are Christian, right? Supposedly. Yeah. I'm like, what is that? He's like, like they couldn't speak good English, right? They said, witch, magic, this protection. Like, they were telling me, I was like, subhanallah, like they knew that these things protect them against.
So, just to reiterate what you're saying, subhanAllah, this is an important issue. To deal with them, it's an act of disbelief, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, there's a smaller issue that people look into nowadays, and it's such a severe problem. For example, a person may go to a fortune teller and ask him about something. And we know the hadith about person who asks such a question, even if it's a joke,
right.
Even if this person is not believing in what he's asking, but out of the curiosity, his prayer will not be accepted. Why? For 40 days.
40 days.
Plus there's issues with his aqidah. Now, that being said, I want to raise an issue that there's a widespread problem with the horoscopes.
Right. A lot of people don't understand.
And people say, oh, it's just, I'm Pisces, I'm like this, I am whatever. I don't even know all of them. I used to know them, by the way, but I forgot them. Allah made me forget, alhamdulillah. Because this was a custom back home where I came from. Every single person was reading a horoscope.
Right. Same here.
And at that time, there was no internet, there was nothing, it was just newspapers. So whenever the newspaper comes, who has the best horoscopes? It was like, which paper do you get? Well, the ones who has the most descriptive horoscopes.
Right.
And people ask each other, what's going to happen to you this month? So there's the monthly horoscope in monthly magazines, there's the weekly ones, and there's daily. And people will on and on and on. And then some people say, I'm just curious, I want to know what's going on. Well, let's just make this clear. This is haram, this is not allowed. And this is at least not going to make you, if you don't believe this, but you just ask another curiosity, this will not, your prayer will not be accepted.
And another thing, just to bring things into reality, because it shows we live in a Muslim country, and these things happen here. You pick up any newspaper almost, any magazine, Time Out, so on, you'll find horoscopes. Okay, and a lot of people are reading it, and I was arguing with my students the other day about certain issues, and I'll bring it up. And subhanAllah, like people just think it's a joke, I'm like, even, let's say we're not giving fatwa here, not saying anything. You're risking your prayer not being accepted 40 days, you know? That's like, come on, man. That doesn't mean you're not going to pray for 40 days. It means you're going to pray, but it's not accepted because the hukum is still for you to pray. Okay, there's a relation. There's the duty of you praying, and then there's the acceptance of the prayer. Okay, you'll be asked about both. And subhanAllah, who doesn't need 40 days of accepted prayers? We all need 40 days.
But I think it's also due upon us to advise, because a lot of people who allow these things, or they don't know about this.
They don't know about, and people.
So, for example, like in Saudi Arabia, there was an instance where an English newspaper, Saudi Gazette, they tried to introduce this about 4 years ago.
Right.
And a bunch of brothers, actually, I know the brothers. You might actually know him too. And mashallah, he wrote, and we all make a campaign and petition.
Good.
It was more like just informational for them. And subhanAllah, they stopped it.
Mashallah.
You know?
So we advise, the other thing is, subhanAllah, I was shocked to see a popular TV show here, a guy coming and levitating someone on live TV. And my students showed me that. And it was, you're talking about here, Muslim making the levitation. And the woman sitting there, she's like, subhanAllah, and I'm like.
Well, when you say subhanAllah, what happens?
Yeah, usually, yeah. But it didn't at that time.
Isn't there a story
you have to have like strong,
Isn't there a story of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah?
Yeah, I think it's Ibn Taymiyyah.
When he met Ibn Qayyim.
Yeah.
And then,
but subhanAllah, what I talked to my students, they said, teacher said, we don't think it's real. We think it's just a trick.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And then that's the thing, like, for example, like, what's the guy's name? David Blake, whatever his name is?
Blaine,
right?
Blaine,
He's supposed to come now to make a big show here, right? And see, even if it's tricks, and that's what I told them. I said, listen, even if it's tricks, the sahir, the people, the magicians of Musa, they were tricking. They were playing with optical illusions. Like their snakes were not real. It appeared
to be,
they're not real. The one that Musa threw was real. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it to be like that. So, but still, were they blameworthy? Yes, of course. They were called magicians. They were evil. They were with,
but Allah made them repent.
They made them repent. That's a different story.
It's a different story, yeah.
Right? But subhanAllah, bottom line is that it happens in Muslim countries a lot. It happens in newspapers in Muslim countries. You got, and a lot of people don't know. They don't even know. They're not even aware of this, and you can play with this. That's the, maybe the takeaway story is that you can play with this. You can.
But at the same token, we have to also make something clear. If a person is doing this, is not aware, does not know, is ignorant upon the issue, then the responsibility may not fall on him.
That's
but
true.
He needs to be
advised,
educated,
no
advised,
doubt.
and so on. Yeah.
Same thing with books like Harry Potter. I mean, you're pushing your limits. And I was telling my students as well, they were asking me about Harry Potter. I'm like, I would not.
No, it's not Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Okay, so I would not read that. There's, this. I mean, it gives you like there's black magic and white magic. There is no colors to magic.
It's magic.
It's just magic. So, but they fool you into believing that. And that's how shaitan works. Shaitan works into what? Into denaturalizing, desensitizing, and basically repackaging something that is evil. Oh yeah, there's black magic. Stay away from that. But here's the white magic. This is all good. Good. Take it. Here's tarot reading. And globe reading.
And the guys actually who practice dark magic, they are like, they have dark clothing, and even their faces look dark, and the hair is dark. And the guys who have white magic, they're like
white,
lots of light, nur.
Yes. So you have to understand the shaitan, he hides behind these kind of things. It's not hard. We know very well that the shaitan, the jinn, can take the shape and form of anyone except Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Especially like in a dream.
We also have to know that there's certain people out there in the world. I know some of them back home. They say, we haven't seen you for salah or something like that. And the guy says, no, don't bother him. He prayed Fajr in Mecca.
Yeah, that's another.
How did he pray Fajr in Mecca? And it's like 5,000 kilometers away, and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. So he's back already. How is that possible? Even if you fly with a supersonic jet, like Concorde, you will not reach in that time.
On the same token,
so they're like, but don't worry, he has his ways.
Right, he has his way. But that's the thing, though. It can actually happen that he's going to the jinn, but it can also happen that the jinn took his shape, because there's a story of Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, where some of his students came to him and says that we saw you like somewhere, and then you're now here, and he's like, I was not there. They're like, no, we actually like interact with you. And he's like, I'm telling you that I was not there, and what you saw is, a jinn trying to misguide you or whatever, So subhanAllah, we have to be very careful. In the end, there's a lot of, so-called pious people hiding behind, or being, the forefront, or the show, and behind them there's issues and jinns and so on. We don't follow people based on their karamat and based on what they can do and how they pious they are.
Or not even
we
that.
We follow people based on how they follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Exactly. People nowadays they say, I had a dream, and in this dream the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told me such and such thing, and I'm practicing such and such a thing after Asr or whatever, doing whatever ritual, and adding something to deen, to religion, or even subtracting some of it. And this is wrong. We cannot accept this, because deen is perfect. And ibadah is already prescribed by the Prophet ﷺ, and there is no addition or subtraction to it. And that's it. It's quite simple, subhanAllah. There's a simple recipe. Whatever is prescribed, as in deen, already practiced by and shown by Rasulullah ﷺ, we do, and comes to the other side when you, about food or any other thing, whatever is not mentioned is halal for you. Whatever Allah mentioned that's forbidden is forbidden for you. From the khinzir, from the pork, and so on and so forth.
So actually, that's why the Muslims today are very much engaged in this discourse, magic and watching the movies and following up, and actually some of them actually going to the magicians, and we found a lot of people are affected by this. And as I started in the beginning, one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, when it talks about the angels and how it was revealed to them, that they're teaching people what يفرق بين المرء وزوجه, what makes
and this happens even I know examples of it.
Yeah, what splits couples and splits married couples, to the point where the husband will look at a wife and that's the last person he wants to see.
He'll be repulsed by it.
And repulsed, and people having allergies to each other, subhanAllah. As soon as, I remember one case, as soon as the woman would get close to her husband, it's like needles would come from her skin, man. Like just pierce her skin and blood would come out. Yeah. Just as soon as they'll get close to each other.
Subhanallah.
So this is dangerous stuff. And inshallah we'll take a little break right now, and we'll bring Ustaz Muhammad Tim Humble, and inshallah the phone number is on the screen. You can call. We have a few questions some people are asking, so we'll ask them these questions. Please give us a call, and please stay tuned. We'll be right back in a few minutes on A Time to Please Allah.
A chance to gain reward I will spend on you, he says.
We can't just take knowledge and keep it as information. We have to transfer it into action. When he got up, he said one thing. Asalla nas? Did the people pray? In Hajj, for example, the primary example of how multiculturalism really looks like. All equal. I've got a dentist in Canada. Even though he's ripping holes in my teeth, he's got great akhlaq. I love visiting him. Identify the issue. Analyze it. Challenge it. And then try again. Because if you fail, big deal. Try again and keep trying.
If I think I lost my ablution, but I'm not sure, do I have to make wudu again? Is it allowed for Muslims to visit the graveyard, or is that shirk? Am I allowed to say Jummah Mubarak to someone? Can I get to know a sister before marriage? I have so many questions, and I feel that I've just reached a dead end. If only I could find someone trustworthy to answer my questions. Someone who speaks based on proof from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah. Welcome back. And we are joined by our dear brother, Ustaz Muhammad Tim Humble. Assalamu alaikum wa
Wa
rahmatullah.
alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good seeing you.
It's a pleasure to meet
Met you before, but we've never
you.
actually interacted, so I was really excited. And then when Ismail said he can't come, I said, sweet, I can get you like all to myself.
He was here a few months ago for the New Muslim Summit.
Yeah.
I was.
And I was, I was MC for your...
You were, mashallah, tabarakallah. Allahumma barik.
I'll give you guys a hard
Was that
time.
your first time in Dubai? Or?
That was it wasn't my first time in Dubai ever, but it was my first proper stay in Dubai.
Okay.
And the first time I got to see a good side of Dubai.
Okay.
So it was really nice.
Nice.
I really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Alhamdulillah. Taib. So what we are speaking about today, and this is probably the third episode on this topic, and it's been demanded over and over again. We get a lot of emails, a lot of messages on Facebook about this topic, and it's the issue of jinn, black magic, and so on. So actually, the way we would like to see if any of this audience has any questions, and we got some questions on Facebook as well, and if possible, we'd like to speak at least as possible, and we'd like to hear from you about certain things. What is it? How to stay away from it? I would say if you can focus on, because that's a lot of people are, they know in general what it is, but they don't know how to stay away from it. They don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know what to do when this thing happens. At the same time, they don't know when it is or it's not. It's just a natural cause, right? That's usually with culture. A lot of things are mixed up. Anything is you blame the jinn, right?
Definitely.
So, if you can touch upon some of these things, and we're asking our audience to, call us.
I think you have some questions also as well.
I have the question. So I'll let first you can speak. I'm sure.
Okay, if we take it from the beginning, I think there's a lot of things. Obviously, there's a lot of things we can chat about, and it's a very, very large topic. But one of the things you touched upon just a few moments ago is that people become very confused about when there's a problem and when there isn't a problem. And I think in this, the easiest answer that we can give to anyone, and this is the answer that I would give to everybody, is that your cure from whatever problem you're suffering from, whether that is medical, whether it's psychological, whether it's a physical problem, whether it's a problem to do with the paranormal, it lies in Islam and it lies in the Quran. And that helps people get out of so many problems they're in. Because people are sitting, I don't know whether it's this or it's that. But the reality is that the Quran is a cure for every problem, regardless of what its source is. And so a person doesn't really need to know. I mean, it helps them to know symptoms, and perhaps we can talk a little bit about that. But what they really need to do, and I was chatting with a brother today about this, is they need to get in the habit of when they become ill or when something happens to them, that they seek that help from Allah, and they seek it through the recitation of the Quran. And if they do that, then it will catch all of their problems, whether those problems are based in the material world or the paranormal. I think that's a major thing. And in terms of symptoms, I think that you find people between one of two things. You find them either in a certain form of extreme, or going to a certain form of extremes, and you see them becoming paranoid and becoming worried about every small thing that happens to them. And at the same time, you see people who clearly have a problem,
Right.
and they're not addressing that problem.
Sorry to cut you off for a second. There's
No
a little
problem.
small problem in your mic. So we're just going to take a short break till the guys
No problem.
change, because we don't want to miss any audio. It's going through, I guess, but it's not clear.
It's not too
crystal
clear, yeah.
So
Sure,
let
no
us
problem.
take a little break, inshallah. We excuse ourselves. Please allow us to take a short break just to fix this issue, just so we can come back and really you can hear everything, because this is an important topic. And I have a follow-up question for that one sister asked specifically about that.
No problem.
So I'm going to keep shooting at you some things, Sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
Okay, so just give us 1 minute, inshallah. We'll be right back. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says.
يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا حي يا قيوم لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين اللهم أحسن عاقبتنا في الأمور كلها وأجرنا من خزي الدنيا وعذاب الآخرة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر
We try to recap what we do here at Huda TV for the past week, and we try to share with you some of the latest news that is happening behind the scenes here at the station.
Living Islam would love a cooking show to be aired for Arabic dishes. Also more programs for children regarding manners.
We want to go ahead and take a look at our YouTube page right now and see how it looks as it stands. Well, I'm on the screen right now, but I'm not on TV. I'm actually through YouTube, as you can see right there. It's the same exact thing that you see on TV here live. It's exactly the same thing that is on our YouTube page through our live streaming. A great way to stay in touch with us.
It's my first time to call Huda TV, but I like it too much.
Because there is no program in Huda TV that it is not important for our Muslims, inshallah.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back, and we apologize for that little technical difficulty. So alhamdulillah, we're back with Ustaz Muhammad Hammo. Assalamu alaikum. So we're talking about the issue of knowing and whether it is magic or not. And you basically said something that I would like to kind of turn back at you, and you can maybe answer it. What a sister asked. You were saying that, you know, people should recognize that the shifa is in the Quran for whatever reason it is. So one sister brought the issue of the hadith, yani, in shitti sabarti walakil jannah, about the woman who used to have fits, yani, and used to ask the Prophet to make dua for her. And also the hadith about the people who enter Jannah without hisab, the people who they will not read upon themselves or read on someone else, or you know, use this as how do we bring those two together, and in terms of
Okay, I think there are two things regarding these two hadith, and both of these two hadith are different. The first one with regard to patience, and I believe Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala touched upon this when he said that with regard to patience, there's no doubt that you must be patient upon what befalls you, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees to happen to you and what befalls you. At the same time, while you're being patient and while you are doing everything you can, you have to seek a cure. At the end of the day, this is a well-known principle from the Sunnah, that when we are sick, we seek a cure and we take a medicine, even though we must be patient. And so I believe what Ibn al-Qayyim touched upon is that you don't seek to bring difficulty upon yourself. In reality, what happens is you are patient over what happens after you've done your best. You've done everything that you can, and you're patient and you expect the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for you suffering and choosing to suffer more than is necessary, then this is not something from the Sunnah. And it's not the case of the woman that was mentioned, that she suffered more than was necessary. She did what she had to do in order to seek a cure, and the Prophet ﷺ informed her something that was specific to her case. And we don't understand from that hadith that for a person to refrain from taking medicine is better than for them to take it. Rather, the Messenger ﷺ instructed us to take the medicine, to seek the cure, as did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for the second hadith, regarding هُمُ الَّذِينَ لَا يَسْتَرْقُونَ, they are those who do not seek ruqya. We should mention that the authentic wording of the hadith mentions istirqa. It mentions seeking ruqya, and it doesn't mention performing ruqya upon yourself. Okay. As for performing ruqya upon yourself, this is established in the Quran, it's established in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ did it for himself, he did it for his family. Aisha radiallahu anha used to do it, and she had it done to her. Jibreel came and performed ruqya upon the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ sanctioned ruqya to be performed among his companions. So there's no issue there. What the issue is understanding this issue of seeking ruqya. And we say that people in this regard are of two types. Those people who need to seek ruqya, and they are those people who are physically unable to treat themselves. They do everything that they can to treat themselves, but for example, a person is reciting the Quran. When they're reciting the Quran for ruqya, what happens is the shaitan takes hold of their throat and begins to choke them, and they can't recite what they're trying to recite. For those people, you can't ask them to read upon themselves. It's a necessity for them to go out and for them to seek it. However, we say that it is better for a person and better for their trust in Allah, and it's not an issue of halal and haram, but it's better for them and better for their trust in Allah that they try to deal with it themselves. They seek advice, they do their best, and they try as much as they can to read upon themselves. If they can't manage that, then it's the next best thing is for somebody to read on them without them asking. And when Jibreel came to recite upon the Prophet ﷺ, you're looking at the best of Allah's creation. And the Prophet ﷺ did not refuse the ruqya that Aisha read upon him, because this was something they did from themselves without him asking.
He didn't ask it.
What is the problem with istirqa? The problem with seeking ruqya is that you weaken your iman by going around begging to people that I can't get cured without your help. Please read on me. If you don't read on me, I don't know who's going to read on me. This is the problem. And as long as that doesn't exist, there isn't an issue with it, inshallah, and hopefully that goes some way towards clearing up the confusion. So we say to people, read upon yourself. By all means, if you see a sick person, read upon them without them asking. And if someone goes to ask, there's no harm in that, especially those people who need it.
Okay, question. Before we take a phone call. If someone, you find it on the internet that you have Ruqya Sharia, an MP3.
Yeah.
If you play that, you go research for it and would that be qualified under you seeking it, or you just reading it upon yourself? Or because a lot of people do that, they'll just play it on the MP3 and just listen in their house.
I mean, personally, I would say this is a difficult issue, but I would say that first of all, we have to be aware that ruqya audio isn't a replacement for ruqya. Ruqya is on the breath, and it's through the recitation of the Quran. Ruqya audio is very beneficial. It's very useful, especially for people who might be struggling to read themselves and they need to read along with somebody. But we shouldn't be using those MP3s as a replacement for proper ruqya. And likewise, we shouldn't be listening to them as a replacement for us doing ruqya upon ourselves. But they have a place, and I don't think they're a part of seeking ruqya in the sense that a person is not attaching themselves. The danger in seeking ruqya is all to do with attaching yourself and your cure to other than Allah.
Okay.
So as long as this isn't present, then inshallah there's no harm in it, but people need to be aware that it's not a replacement for proper ruqya.
We have a phone call, Aisha from Dubai. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. I'm sorry, I haven't seen this show, so if I just mention something or if I just repeat myself, but I've just heard a little bit about what the brother just said about the ruqya. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Muhammad.
Wa alaikum salam.
I just want to firstly just say that no one can really truly understand what it's like to be possessed unless it's actually happened to them. I just recently found out that I was afflicted by a jinn who told me she's thousands of years old, and it's really affected my life in I mean, obviously in a negative way, everything seems to has come 100 times worse. I seem to find myself getting confused and angry a lot. I'm really on the verge of anger all the time. Sometimes I feel like she wants me to express this hatred and be vindictive to others, especially those that are close to me. When I tried the audio ruqya, I have kind of two different personalities she comes out with. Sometimes she's whimpering and she's telling me to stop and that it's burning her. And then sometimes she's very threatening and very aggressive. And she threatens and tells me she's going to hurt me and my kids. It's really hard for me to find somebody in Dubai to help me. I know I just heard part of what you said, that the audio ruqya, it's not as beneficial, but I was wondering what do I do in this situation?
Okay, first of all, we want to ask Allah Azza wa Jal by every name that is His to cure you with a cure that leaves no sickness. And at the end of the day, the first and foremost thing that you need to do is to realize that your cure is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to turn to Allah. Because nothing is difficult for Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the plot of the shaitan. إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. The plot of the shaitan is constantly weak. So the first thing you need to do is to turn yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to look at every aspect of your life, because all of us sin and all of us make mistakes. And to realize that just as much as your cure lies in ruqya, it lies in turning to Allah, and it lies in dua, and it lies in correcting yourself, and it lies in in looking at the things that you're doing and doing your best to overcome the bad things and increase the good things. A lot of Iraqis don't focus on that, and they focus only upon the ruqya and the recitation of the Quran. And that for me is something which is very much deficient. We need to be encouraging people that it's all about purification of the soul. And at the end of the day, you said that things have become worse, and I have no doubt, having many hundreds of people, that in a physical sense things have become worse. But at the end of the day, you also have a huge opportunity from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come near to Allah. And for all the shaitan can control you physically, the shaitan can't change that. They can't change that attachment that you have in your heart to Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal will never allow them to have control over that. So you have an opportunity to look at it as a means for you to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what I said about the ruqya audio, it's not a replacement for ruqya, but at the end of the day, in your case, it's something you can use as a tool. But what we really want to see, and again on my website, which is muhammadtim.com, there is some more information in a lot more detail, but we want you to try to recite the Quran upon yourself as much as you can. And if, there's no doubt that... Go on, carry on.
Okay, when I do that, she kind of surfaces and interrupts me or shouts or screams or tries to talk to me, and it's very hard for me to read Quran and focus on something else at the same time.
Okay, this is also quite normal. What I want you to do are two things. The first is to try it anyway and to do your best to persevere, because honestly, you can't imagine how much you are actually winning over the shaitan. The shaitan will never give you that knowledge, will never give you the ability to recognize that you're actually winning. And so that recitation makes a huge difference. Even if it's only that you can manage Al-Fatiha once or twice, or Al-Falaq or An-Nas as much as you can, it's worth doing. The next thing what you really need, and when you're in that kind of state, is you need somebody to give you a hand. And at the end of the day, that's difficult for everyone, but you ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make it easy for you to find somebody, even if it's within your very close family. And that's of course the ideal situation with a sister. Find somebody who, in your close family, who's going to give you that support to read over you. And if you don't, and this is the last point that I want to make, if you don't find that person, then be patient and expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah to the extent that you can. Sometimes we tell people a cure and they can only do 50% because the other 50% is beyond them. Don't worry about that. If you've done the best that you can, trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that cure. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
Brother Tim, one second. There's an actual center for ruqya in Dubai.
Yes.
By the Awqaf. Is that something that some ladies can go to if they don't have, for example, mahram? If there's I know there's more than one person there. If it's like an extreme case, would that be allowed for them to go there, or what do you think?
No, again, I don't know much about the center, but
it is
in terms of our side,
a government awqaf.
In terms of our, the way that I do ruqya, there are many sisters who come that can't bring a mahram, and at the end of the day, what we say to them is, come and bring another sister with you. Even if the guy, the raqi should have more than one person there, so there will be two people. But even then, it's I would say bring a sister, for the sister to bring a sister with her. Why? Because this will help her to have someone there on her side.
Right.
It will help her if she needs to adjust her hijab, or she needs somebody to hold her hand or something like that. What we always say is bring another sister.
So it's okay,
there's no problem at all with it.
Because
whatsoever.
It's a government established organization. It is for raqis. It is for experienced people who know and have experience. And
there's no problem whatsoever. But again, we say to a person that there will be some people who will be watching this who will not be able to go for whatever reason. And we say a lot of people struggle with this. They say, look, I've heard you on your YouTube videos, I've heard you on your website say do this, but I can only do 70%, I can only do 50%. We say to those people that فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah as much as you can. If you can't do any more than that, do the most you can, and Allah will help you with the rest. Don't fear that Allah will abandon you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never ever abandon you.
Feel that you're deficient in some ways.
Do the best that you can, and Allah will help you with the rest. But what we want to encourage is for the people like the sister to make that effort, even if it's only a few lines of the Quran. It will make a difference. It will make a huge difference. And that effort is sometimes more important. It's worth more than any raqi in the world. That effort that a person makes, and that striving that a person makes, as well as the emphasis that I put on a person looking at themselves, reforming themselves, changing themselves. It's worth as much as any amount of ruqyah. Because so much of the control the shaitan has over us is because of ourselves. And so much of, if you imagine the shaitan inside of a person, you want to make life as hard for that shaitan as you possibly can. And the way to do that is by coming close to Allah, by doing as much as you can to worship Allah, to come near to Allah. That's going to make life very, very hard for the shaitan to bear.
Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. Any other calls, inshallah? We're expecting Brother Muhammad is willing to answer. I just want to bring in the question of one of the sisters that I read on Facebook, I think is very important, which will open up maybe a little different tangent, but on the same topic, the issue of the effect that magic has, or jinn has, on marriage. And the sister's saying that she's about to get married, she's engaged, or whatever, and she just found out from her future mother-in-law that there's some people in her family, the family she's marrying into, about 2 people that are involved in black magic and casting spells, and the mother-in-law doesn't want them to meet the lady. She's basically keeping them away because these people are specifically doing these black magic things to split the people, specifically with marriage, and she was affected, the mother-in-law, before. So the sister's asking, how can I protect myself? It's not like I can avoid them forever.
No doubt. I think there are a couple of things here. The very first thing is that the very greatest form of protection that a person can have is their tawheed. And there is not one thing that can protect you more than your worship of Allah alone and your rejection of everything that is worshipped besides Allah. And if you were to look at the adhkar of the morning and the evening, and you were to look at the means of protection, almost all of them are based upon La ilaha illallah. So your worship of Allah alone is the single greatest thing that protects you from the shaitan, and indeed the single greatest thing that protects you from every evil. After that, we want the sister to protect herself with the beneficial means of protection that are mentioned in the Book of Allah and in the Sunnah. And in this again, I'll mention the website, which is muhammadtim.com, muhammadtim.com. On there you can find how to protect yourself from the shaitan. It's a very small article, and basically it contains about 6 or 7 of the most simple and the most easy to learn du'as that a person can mention. And when we want people to focus on these are in a number of situations. Immediately after Salatul Fajr, doing the adhkar that protect you for the rest of the day. For the brothers, praying Salatul Fajr in the Jama'ah is a major means of protection. then the adhkar that are said after, either after Asr or after Maghrib, and then before a person sleeps. And then the fourth circumstance is in those times when a person feels that they are in the presence of an enemy. And there are some specific adhkar and some specific du'as, and you can find them in Hisnul Muslim, for when you meet an enemy, the fear that you might have that someone might harm you, and you make that du'a that Allah saves you from that. And whoever seeks refuge with Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them refuge without a shadow of a doubt. And so much of what I'm saying here today is about husnul dhan billah, about thinking good of Allah, about having in your mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you and will save you and will help you. And I think the example of this is to look at the Raqi. I mean, the Raqi goes out to fight against the magician and the shaitan every single day. If there were one person that they would want to take down, it would be the Raqi. And yet we see these Raqis walking around perfectly happy, perfectly healthy.
Does it have to do something with the realization of a person? As you said, it has to do with the Iman, perfecting the Iman, that these jinns cannot actually harm him like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Like he really feels that khalas, there's nothing.
No doubt. It comes down to a person's recognition. It doesn't come down to their strength, because all of us are weak, but it comes down to their realization that their strength lies in seeking strength from Allah and seeking help from Allah.
Question on that. If you are scared of the jinn, are you more susceptible for them to attack you?
No doubt. And there is an authentic narration to this in this regard. There is a narration of one of the tabi'een commenting, and I think it was Qatada off the top of my head, rahimahullah, commenting on the ayah in Surah Al-Jinn, فَزَادُوهُمْ رَهَقًا, they increased each other in weakness. And he said, with regard to this, that there were some people of Quraysh, they used to go with an army, and when they would enter into a valley, the jinn would flee from them. And the jinn are actually as fearful or as they are as scared of us as we are of them, or even more. They would flee. And then they would begin to seek refuge with the people in the valley, and they would begin to call upon the leader or master of the valley or leader of the jinn. And the jinn, when they would see them, they would come back and they would afflict them with madness, and they would afflict them with trials and tribulations. At the end of the day, the shaitan works on fear. And I think one of the clearest ayat in this regard is the statement of Allah Azza wa Jalla in Surah Al-Imran, إِنَّمَا ذَلِكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ وَخَافُونِي إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. This is only the shaitan who makes you scared of his allies. Do not fear them, but fear me. I fear Allah if you are really believers. So the more scared a person is of the jinn, the more chance they have of being afflicted, without a shadow of a doubt.
Barakallah fiqh. We have some phone calls. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Go ahead, brother. Yes, brother, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to ask. Yes?
Go ahead, we can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Okay, we lost that call. We can ask the brother to call back, please. Any other phone call? Okay, sorry, continue.
No problem. No, so I think that was an important point, that the more a person has that fear, certainly they give themselves a weakness. They place a weakness. And there are a number of weaknesses that lead the shaitan to attack you. From those are allowing yourself to get to extreme emotions, not being careful about where you go, about not being careful about your dua and your azkars. These are all reasons to be afflicted, but particularly a person being scared, especially when that fear leads to reverence and leads to a person seeking help. And one of the things we see in Ruqya a lot these days is we see people trying to appease the jinn. They say, look, I've made an agreement. I'll leave you alone, you leave me alone. And the problem with that is that the shaitan will never keep his agreement. You know, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ. Indeed, Allah promised you and His promise is true. And as Iblis will say on the Day of Judgment, and I promised you and I broke my promise. So their promise will never ever hold to be true. And so people will say, right, I'll avoid doing ruqya because, as the sister mentioned who called earlier, it produces a reaction. And if that reaction is very difficult for a person to manage, and so they say, well, it's better for me not to do anything. But the problem is the shaitan will never keep to his agreement, and he will go back on it and end up causing much worse a much worse problem than the one that was there before.
Barakallahu fiqh. We have Abdullah from Saudi Arabia. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, can I ask?
Faddal.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Salam.
salam wa
Salam
rahmatullah.
to Allah.
Brother, if you can turn down your TV and you can just hear us through the phone.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. My question is it possible if somebody is affected by jinn or affected by black magic, is it a must the person should see the Raqi and should get the Ruqya? Because I heard someone was saying that there might be some people who are affected, but they don't know, and for years they are just suffering, and they don't know that they are affected by black magic. Is it possible that the person is a must should go and see the Raqi and get some treatment from Ruqya, or is it you can get a treatment by just making dua to Allah without going and seeing anybody?
Okay, I think the answer to this question is that it's not a must for a person to go and see somebody, but it is a must, like we said at the beginning of the program, and this is one of the points that I'm really clear about, is when a person becomes ill with any illness, seek a cure from the Quran. Use the Quran as a means, as part of the cure. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to go to your GP, to your doctor, to the hospital. You do all of those things, but at the same time, you follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and you read over yourself, you blow over yourself, you read Al-Falaq and An-Nas and you blow into your hands and you wipe over your body, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do when he was sick from a regular sickness. And as Aisha radiallahu anha mentioned, that she did this in the sickness that led to the death of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is something that a person needs to do, and I think this would solve so many of the problems people have, of those people who the brother mentioned, who they spend many, many years of their life not realizing they have a problem. And it would be solved by them integrating the Quran as a part of their cure. However, I think it is important for a person to go and see a Raqi if they're struggling themselves, if they're not managing to understand what's wrong with them, if they are maybe in a state where they're unsure about whether they have a problem or not. Go and put your mind at rest. A Ruqya is not going to cause any harm to you. All the Raqi is going to do is read some Quran over you. And at the end of the day, go and put your mind at rest is better for a person than for a person to suffer for many, many years. And we know that the situation of magic and the jinn is that they get worse over time. It's like a cancer. The longer it's in the body, the worse it becomes.
I think we're running out of time. But I just wanted to clarify something myself. I just wanted to also get your opinion on that. Since I work in healthcare, 2 points. First point is, a lot of people, they say they're suffering from jinn or magic. Meanwhile, they have a really medical problem. So they think that the cure is not on the medical side. For example, somebody will have a heart disease or be a diabetic. And it's quite clear that this person is in such a state. It's clear cut. Yet these people, they say, no, I need to go get Ruqya. This is fine, you get Ruqya. You do on yourself. But they will specifically say, I don't want medical treatment. Right? I don't want nothing medical. I'm going to go to Raqi, I'm going to do it myself. Doing Ruqya on yourself and go to Raqi is fine, from my understanding. But to deny yourself a medical treatment is something that it's not allowed for you to do, isn't it?
It's something very foolish at the end of the day for a person, whether they have a jinn problem or they don't. And I mean, if we look at this, this becomes most clear in the issue of the evil eye. Because the evil eye is behind many, many medical illnesses that people suffer. At the end of the day, we know that the Prophet ﷺ indicated that after the decree of Allah, the majority of this ummah will die from the evil eye. However, if we look at the situation in medicine, we see them dying from heart attacks, and we see them dying from cancer, and we see them dying from many things. So the problem here is many things. There's an overlap. At the end of the day, the best means for a person to be treated is for them to turn to Allah, to treat themselves with the Quran, and to go to a healthcare professional and treat themselves.
The second point that I'm going to make is, I think last minute, we have to understand that there is mental health issues, that there are certain disorders a person may or may not suffer, that these may not be caused by jinn. They may be caused by abuse or something that happened in the childhood for that person.
Factors, yeah.
Certain factors that affected such a human. And we have some physicians in Canada, as you know,
right,
who are working and they're mashallah practicing brothers, and they say there is mental health issues among Muslims.
No doubt.
And I think this is the point that we are not familiar with in these regions, that people are not investigating a lot on these issues. In the West, it's more. And people say, well, you know what, everybody suffers from mental health but guess what? Because they've been diagnosing it. I don't believe that mental health is an issue or to say that this is a problem for everyone and that this is always the issue. No, there is jinn involved. But I think we have to find a balance between all of these three: mental health, medical, jinn, or evil eye, or anything like that. So I think we have to educate ourselves overall, you know, and get the best out of it, inshallah.
I mean, me personally, I don't see a great difference between the three in terms of the way that we treat it. Because if someone has a jinn problem and it's presenting itself as a mental health issue, I would still tell them to go and see a psychiatrist for them to get the treatment, and at the same time I would do ruqya on them. If a person came and said that they were suffering from madness, and bear in mind the Quran clearly defines mental health issues as being separate from the jinn, because you have the mention of madness, which is completely different from the jinn. And at the end of the day, you still treat it with the Quran. And like Ibn al-Qayyim said, if the speech of a man, of a human being, can affect a person, like a psychiatrist speaking to somebody, and that can cause an effect with someone, then how about the speech of Allah?
I think, just to summarize,
we have to close.
I know we have to close. Basically, seek cure with Allah no matter what.
No matter what.
Exactly. We agreed upon this.
Right.
It's just don't ignore other facets of it.
Right.
Don't ignore what Allah has placed on the earth to make easy for you.
Barakallah.
Jazakumullah khair.
I'd just like to thank you, and I hope you can come back on our show.
I'd love to.
I'm sure we can extend this topic for at least another 5-10 shows. Right? And at the same time, it's very beneficial. Like, I'm, sitting here, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this. Oh, I didn't know that. Let me make a note of this. And subhanAllah, I'm sure that the viewers, they're learning a lot. And so we hope that you can come back on our show, inshallah, for another part 2,
I love to.
of the Raqi. Jazakumullah khair. I just want to remind the audience that Ramadan is coming by. Also, so we're going to have a special program Ramadan 3 times a week live from Dubai, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. And we're going to have some...
Dubai time.
Yeah, Dubai time. We're going to have some amazing guests, amazing talks, really amazing topics. And we're also coming live, I believe, from Saudi Arabia and from England, I believe, somewhere. So there's different days, but yeah, there's going to be live shows throughout Ramadan. Please make sure you we'll put it on the Facebook, the exact titles and guests and so on, and we'll have a promo up soon for you. At the same time, I want to say tomorrow you're doing a program, and that's a day-long program, Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
Okay, it's about Kitab al-Iman, right?
Yes, it's
explanation. You go through some hadith, authentic hadith, explaining the benefits. So I believe it's in, where's the place? I forget. It's in Dubai.
It's in Dubai.
It's in Dubai. Go
it's
to
in
Kalima.
Dubai, and it's organized by Kalima.
Kalima.org.
Yeah, Kalima.org.
Yeah,
with
and
H
you'll
at the
find
end.
and you'll find Kalima with H at the
And
end.
by the way, we have to just remember MohammedTim.com, and also remember Humble Foundation.
Right, Humble Foundation.
Yes, I did.
And mashallah, it's quite catchy, and there's a lot of charity and a lot of good work done.
Yeah, that's my new charity. I'm
Humble Foundation.
Humble Foundation.
Very much in the beginning stages, but it's
Look it up.
getting
Tell
there.
us the website.
The website's very easy, humblefoundation.org.
MashaAllah. Nobody took it before?
No, nobody took it.
Allahu Akbar.
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah. Ahsanallah ilayk. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Wa ilayk.
Inshallah, we will see you next time on another episode of Time Please Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Time to please Allah, a chance to gain reward. I will spend on you, he says, on all who spend in good cause. Good deeds are opportunities, sparkling bright and true, raising you in the sight of Allah and adorning Al-Jannah for you. So rush to earn his reward. Don't forget the